Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Lyft has been holding its first ever Investor Day this week, with the company projecting gross bookings to grow about 15% at a compound annual rate over the next 3 years. Investors liking that clarity. Let's dig in a little bit more. The Lyft CEO, David Risher, who's here in New York City. It was a big event.
It was.
And lots of musical performances, and then the serious matter of numbers, of margin. What gets you that 15% compound increase? What gets you an improvement in margin and profitability too?
So I don't think you're going to be surprised about this, but the answer is customer obsession is what gets us there, right? I mean, we're a scale business. We do 2 million rides a day today. We're going to get to $25 billion in bookings over the next couple of years. That just means doing more of what customers like, picking them up faster, pricing better, and then innovating, like with Women Plus Connect and some of the other things we've talked about before. It's really the basics, but you do them really well over and over again, and you can grow an incredibly big and profitable business.
I can see that helping bookings. How does it do the profitability? Do you have to start to charge people a little bit more to be able to get that margin?
No. In fact, that's not at all in the plan. Instead, what is in the plan are things like Lyft Media. So this is such an interesting thing. Think about all the different ways brands want to talk to you today. A lot of them are online, right? They're through Google, maybe Meta, whatever it is. Well, we actually have people in cars going to grocery stores. And is that interesting that maybe, Crest versus Colgate, maybe you don't care too much, but maybe there's an advertiser who'd like to talk to you right as you're about to walk into Kroger, for example. So that's part of the way that we can kind of work with margins. We can also work with modes and some other things. A lot of good ideas there.
David, good morning. It's Ed. I'd like to look past the numbers a little bit. I understand the 709 million rides you did in 2023. And you make this argument that your target market or total addressable market is based on the total miles driven in personal cars. But what I don't see is how you're going to go after that addressable market, convincing people not to use their own vehicles, but take you instead.
Right. Well, I don't have to do a lot of that, to be honest. It's 160 billion trips that people take a year. Let's just look at the daily commute. Every single year, people commute to and from work 55 billion times. 55 soul-crushing billion times. So you don't have to take much of that to make a real difference in our 700 to 800 million rides. We've got a new product that we're just in the process of developing, for example, that will allow you to lock in your price. So every single day, instead of a price that bounces around, you get a consistent price. And that's something we know people stress about. Literally, people wake up early in the morning just to check a couple of different apps to figure out what the least expensive way to get to work is. So if we can take that off the table, that might increase us by, call it a ride a week. But a ride a week times 52 weeks a year times millions of people, it adds up pretty fast.
David, when I said you were coming on the show, the majority of questions from the audience were about robotaxi. You and I have discussed this in the past, but Lyft has a complicated history with robotaxi. I think at the core of their question is, will you survive in a world where, Zoox has a really big runway, Waymo appears to have a really big runway?
Yeah, so we will survive. Let's just take that off the table right now. Because I think the way to think about it is this. It's one thing to create a robotaxi, and both of those companies are doing really incredible work. I'm super, super impressed with the technology and how it's coming together. But it's a very different thing to 2 million times a day pick people up, drop them off, do it in weird weather, do it at airports, and so on and so on. And so I think it's a much more likely scenario that one displaces the other, that actually we work together, right? That we end up welcoming them to our network. Because if you're a robotaxi company, and I know you've taken, for example, the Zoox robotaxi, gosh, you need a lot of volume to really drive the numbers. Otherwise, you make 10 cars, costs you, $10 million a car. It doesn't make any sense. So you got to have someone like us as a partner who can really incorporate them into our network. And I think that's the most likely scenario that, a bunch of different companies I think they're going to work on.
No soul-crushing commute for Ed when he's in that Zoox, playing around with that. David, I'm interested in, you can work together with robo-taxis, but you're not going to work together with Uber. And I'm interested as to, ultimately, they're really focusing on this advertising focus too. Is there room enough for both of you? How are you going to compete for that?
I don't think we have to compete for that. Because I think this, one of the things I learned from Jeff Bezos is work on things that are durable. If you're going to build a big business, work on something that's durable. Okay, I can predict in 5 years, 10 years, 100 years, there are going to be companies like the ones we work with today. Chase, NBC Universal, Delta with their SkyMiles program, Kroger, IHOP. These are 5 companies that we're working with today. Every single one of those companies or their siblings or their brethren are going to want to talk to customers in new ways. And we've got 2 million rides every single day. So no, I don't think that this is one of those zero-sum things. I think actually this is a whole new category of mobile advertising. I think we're going to get there first. I think we're going to do it better. But if other people want to follow us, then more power to them.
You, of course, worked for Amazon. You worked for Microsoft. You learn a lot from those businesses. And both of those are plowing forward in artificial intelligence. I'm sure you are too.
We are.
How much can you use my data as a Lyft user to dictate what ads I'm seeing, make it more specific for me without weirding me out?
So great question. I mean, I would actually turn it around a little bit and say, of course, artificial intelligence is going to revolutionize a lot of different businesses. I would start actually with our drivers. Look at all the different ways drivers interact with our platform right now. By the way, 41% of our drivers don't speak English as their first language at home. So imagine a world where artificial intelligence can help with simultaneous translation. Every single one of our drivers wants to earn more on our platform. Imagine a world where drivers can use an intelligent assistant to help them figure out how to spend their time so they can earn even more on the platform. And then you get to the targeting side. And our goal is going to be to make the targeting so seamless, you think of it as a benefit. You're like, oh, wow, this is fantastic. I'm literally getting a coupon off of my favorite. What's your favorite toothpaste, out of curiosity? Do you have one?
I'm using some weird one made in India that doesn't have fluoride in it. I've like gone into that big rabbit hole.
You're one of those people. Okay, fair enough. Well, you know what? I use a product called David toothpaste. I don't know if they're on the line now. I hope they become a sponsor. Sorry, you've got a personalized. It's not personalized. It's just pure coincidence. But they're also, I think they have a different formulation than fluoride. I don't know. I'm not so focused on that. But it's a very nice tube. I can tell you that. So imagine I'm going to CVS and I get $5 off my David's toothpaste instead of the big, long, ridiculous thing that you get after you check out there. I think it's a better experience.
David, on the AI note, I got a very specific question from an audience member on X. How is Lyft leveraging AI? Is it truly a buzzword for them, or are they really making use of it in a meaningful way? And you gave the example, or a couple of examples there from the driver's perspective. What about the rider's perspective, and what about your internal use?
Sure. So all three, right? So internal is really about productivity and quality, right? We use AI to check our code. We use AI to come up with different ideas sometimes as kind of idea starters. Anyway, a lot of interesting things there. For drivers, I just mentioned a great way, I think, to sort of maximize earnings as an example. And I think for riders, imagine a world, here's a scenario that I bet has never happened to anyone listening. You ever leave your iPhone in the car? And how fun is that experience? Just, 2 minutes later when you realize you don't have it. Well, AI is pretty good at detecting patterns and understanding that, gosh, the car is moving one way, you've just gotten out of the car. What's going on here? Maybe you can reroute the driver back to drop the phone off for you. So I think, look, you can overhype AI. Maybe it's not going to cure cancer tomorrow. Probably isn't, to be honest. But I do think that every single day, if we're customer obsessed, and that's going to be our focus, customer obsessed AI, we can use it in really innovative ways.
Lyft CEO David Risher, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming into our world headquarters.
Always a pleasure.
In New York. Good to see you.